You have to pay attention to what people do and not what they say. I recently learned that most people view the world on how they want it to be and not how it actually is. Back in 2019, I was involved in a small residential project. We bought a small site beside a college next to the Dublin-Lewis line. We designed a small student accommodation, 8 bedrooms, large communal room, laundry, cleaning room, a gym, an open rooftop terrace. And we designed to even rebuild an old historical stone wall back into the facade. It was only 2 stories, so it blended in well. We met with the council and the planners. They loved the design. They thought it was really well thought out and a great use of a derelict building beside a college, next to the Lewis line, and it was even next to a Dublin bike stop. It ticked all the boxes, but the council then told us that they were going to reject it because of policy that was not in the development plan, not in any guidance documents, but a policy from higher up. An unwritten policy at the time that a student accommodation or co-living had to be over 100 bedrooms. We wanted to create something for 8 students right beside the college. But the council didn't want small operators. They only wanted developments with over 100 beds. This was like 6 or 7 years ago, but it was a telling sign for the future. As March 2026 passes us by, the month will go down in history for many reasons, for many sad reasons and crazy reasons. It will also remind me of the time when truly it was the end of small landlords in Ireland and perhaps globally. Governments have stated that they are supporting the housing market and the rental market, but their actions are counterproductive. There's a list of actions that are counterproductive to the market, way too long for this video, but in March alone, we saw the introduction of new rental legislation in Ireland, which led to many landlords evicting their tenants and placing their properties on the market for sale. Reports suggest that 50% of all homes for sale in Ireland right now are being sold by landlords exiting the market. And while this is an opportunity to buy, it's not sustainable supply and it is a disaster for renters. March also saw MEPs in Europe state that they no longer want small landlords. I suppose at least they are actually finally admitting it. March also saw the government announce plans to allow homeowners place cabins in their back gardens and get tax-free allowances of up to 14,000 per annum, similar to the rent a room relief. So soon your options as a renter will be to rent from a large corporation or someone's back garden. If the government wanted to save the rental market and help tenants out, they could have offered something to landlords, something similar to the 14,000 tax-free allowance to perhaps small landlords who had less than 2 properties. And actions do speak louder than words. And if you are a small landlord at this point in time, I don't think there's any help coming for you. And that is going to be bad news for tenants as well. While I'm here in this garage trying to finish off a chicken coop and shooting this video in the garage because I don't have to think about lighting, I am wondering, how does this all end? And perhaps it goes back to something I did talk about a few weeks ago, that the government is waiting for the housing problem or housing crisis to solve itself by depopulation. And by allowing the building of livable sheds in back gardens, that's a medium-term solution to a medium-term problem. But I also have to wonder, is there a point in being a small landlord at the moment? Realistically, the answer is no, hence why so many people are selling up. And it's very clear now that no matter what the government say, they're not going to protect small landlords anymore. And we should be questioning who is driving that policy and who does it actually really benefit. Trying to find some positives in all of this. One might look at adding a garden unit and adding some rental income as a positive, and perhaps it does strengthen some communities as well. A little bit unlikely, but perhaps it does add to the affordabilities of homes for some buyers with getting that benefit of the tax-free allowance, and perhaps it does help the family unit. I now have 2 young kids, and I see the impacts of AI, and I see the negative impacts on society of young adults living at home. Yet families are less united than they ever have been before. Private ownership and private property rights have been whittled down, and the family unit is no longer what it used to be. That support network is gone for many people. And if we're to look at the world honestly, parts of Marx's manifesto have been adopted without us ever voting for it. Marx wanted to destroy the family unit, not the family relationships, but the structures where families had economic units that held private property and also educated their kids. So in a way, he wanted to take away the glue of that unit and perhaps what made it strong in the first place. And I think the unaffordability of childcare, housing, AI coming, conflicts and wars might actually force people to rethink the family unit and take greater control over private ownership and education within their family and start to rebuild something intergenerational from a living point of view, sharing knowledge, joy and wealth. I don't think it's a solution for the current generation, but perhaps it's something we can build the foundations for our kids, for their kids to build something meaningful as well. It's crazy just to think about young adults being expected to start over from scratch every single time, build a life, and then their kids to do it all over again. I think it's time to start taking back some resemblance of control at the moment. And maybe this is wishful thinking, and perhaps this is a view of the world that I want and not what it really is.